Most people quit too early. They pray for results, but they cannot endure the process. They plant a seed today and expect a full-grown tree by tomorrow. The moment life slows down, becomes difficult, or starts to hurt, they believe nothing is working. They look at others moving faster, and slowly, they lose hope, and they give up, just before their time arrives. But life follows a quiet rule, a rule that most people only understand. Too late, the ones who stay patient through the hard times are often the very ones who win in the end. My name is Ayan, and what I am about to tell you is the story of a donkey who taught an entire village the true meaning of patience. In a small, dry village at the edge of the mountains, there lived a poor farmer named Zack. He was not rich, not strong, not famous. He owned a tiny house, a few worn farming tools, and one old donkey named Speed. Speed was not fast like a horse. He was not beautiful either. His body was thin and tired, his fur dusty and dull, and every time he walked slowly through the village roads, the people laughed. The villagers often mocked Zack. "Why do you still keep this useless animal? He is too old. He works too slowly. Just sell him and be done with it." But Zack would always smile and say quietly, "Slow does not mean useless." Every morning, before the sun had even risen, Zack would load small sacks of vegetables onto Speed's back, and the two of them would walk together, miles to the market. The road was rocky. The heat was relentless. And more often than not, men on horses would arrive long before them. Zack earned very little. Some days, he returned home with unsold vegetables still on his hands. Some nights, there was barely enough food for dinner. One evening, after another difficult day at the market, Zack sat quietly outside his house. His eyes were tired, his heart heavier than usual. He whispered to no one in particular, "I work every single day, and nothing changes." Then, slowly, Speed walked toward him and gently rested his head on Zack's shoulder. Zack smiled sadly and whispered back, "At least you understand me." The next morning, Zack made a decision. Instead of taking the same road to the market like everyone else, he chose a longer path, a mountain route, steep, difficult, and dangerous. The villagers laughed even harder. "Your donkey is already the slowest thing alive, and now you choose the longest road?" But Zack said nothing. He simply walked forward. As they moved through the mountains, Zack noticed something that no one else had ever stopped to see. Along the rocky path, wild fruit trees were growing, and travelers passing through those mountains were always thirsty, always hungry, because no one ever sold anything there. Everyone preferred the faster road. Zack stopped. He thought carefully, and the next morning, he packed water and fruits alongside his vegetables. While crossing the mountain road, tired travelers eagerly bought everything from him. For the first time in months, Zack returned home with extra money in his pocket. Weeks passed, then months. Slowly, word spread along the mountain path. Travelers began waiting for Zack. They trusted him because he was kind, because he was patient, because he always arrived at the same time, every single day. Meanwhile, back on the main road, competition had grown fierce. Prices fell. Arguments broke out. Many farmers returned home with anger and empty hands. But Zack kept walking his slow mountain path with Speed by his side, day after day, month after month. Then one afternoon, a wealthy merchant traveling through the mountains stopped to watch something unexpected. Zack was helping an injured traveler, asking for nothing in return. The merchant stood quietly and observed. Speed stood beside Zack, calm and patient, carrying heavy supplies without a sound. The merchant walked over. "You are different from most people," he said. Zack smiled. "Life taught me patience, girl." The merchant made him an offer that day. "I need someone honest to transport goods through these mountains every week. Most men refuse because the road is too hard. Will you do it? Zack agreed without hesitation. That one small opportunity changed everything. Over the next few years, Zack slowly earned enough money to buy more land, repair his house, and finally, live in peace. But he never forgot speed. Even when people began to respect him, even when life grew comfortable, Zack still walked beside his donkey every morning. One day, a young boy approached him. "How did you become successful?" he asked. Zack looked at Speed and smiled. "Because of him." The boy looked confused. "But he is just a donkey." And Zack replied, "No, he is the reason I learned patience." He continued, "Everyone wanted speed. Everyone chased quick success. They laughed at slow progress. But this donkey taught me something powerful. Slow steps still move forward. Patience still reaches the destination." Years later, a terrible storm hit the village. Heavy rain poured for days and nights. The main road was destroyed completely. Trade stopped overnight. Farmers who had depended on the fast road lost everything. But the mountain path Zack had walked for years remained safe because it was built on stronger ground. Now, the entire village depended on Zack's route for food and supplies. The same people who had laughed at Speed now stood in silence, watching him carry goods through the mountains for everyone. One old villager lowered his head and said, "We judged him because he was slow." And Zack replied calmly, "The world often laughs at patience because it cannot see the future." That night, Zack sat beside Speed under the open stars. Speed had grown very old now. His steps were weaker than before. Zack gently touched his head and whispered, "You carried more than vegetables. You carried my dreams when nobody else believed in them." A few days later, Speed passed away peacefully, near the same mountain road they had traveled together for years. Zack buried him beneath a large tree, overlooking the valley, and people came from across the village to pay their respects, because by then, everyone knew the story of the patient donkey. Near the grave, Zack placed a small wooden sign. It read, "Fast people may arrive early, but patient people arrive stronger." And that is the lesson of this story. Patience does not mean doing nothing. Patience means continuing to move, even when no results are visible, even when no one is watching, even when the road feels too long and too hard. Most people destroy their future because they cannot survive temporary discomfort. They quit too soon. They change direction too quickly. They panic the moment life grows quiet. But success is not always about talent or speed. Sometimes, success simply belongs to the person who refuses to stop. A tree takes years before it gives fruit. A river cuts through solid rock, not because of power, but because of patience and consistency. And just like Speed the donkey, sometimes the slowest journey creates the strongest life. If life feels slow right now, do not lose hope. Keep walking your path, because your patience may be building something far greater than you can currently see.